I'm Nick O'Gorman, and you're listening to the True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book creators and supporters. It's February 12th, 2021. I'm John Swinimer. If you want to drop me a line, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Nick O'Gorman about Death Row Sorcerer. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, and it's also on the True North Country Comics channel on YouTube. Nick is a comic book creator based in Ottawa, Ontario, who's worked in all areas of the medium: penciling, lettering, inking, coloring, and writing. He's been working in this industry for many years and considers the time spent working an absolute pleasure. Aside from drawing, Nick spends his time reading, playing guitar, and singing in the hard rock, post-hardcore band Sweet Alps. Nick's current project is Death Row Sorcerer. So, without further ado, here's my chat with Nick O'Gorman about Death Row Sorcerer. So, Nick O'Gorman, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Oh, thanks for having me, John.
Cool. I appreciate your time. What I normally do to start off the interview is ask creators about their first comic book. So I'm wondering if you remember, what was the first comic book that you read?
The first one I read, it was one of the X-Men Classics reprints. The first one I remember going to a store to buy was JLA #1 by Grant Morrison.
Oh,
so
wow.
that was at the airport, and that was the first new comic rather than the kind of flea market ones I'd been picking up. So that was pretty informative, and it made me a lifelong Grant Morrison fan, even though that was probably his most out there comic for him, because it is a lot more kind of grounded.
Yeah, that's definitely, you can't go wrong with Morrison, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, I still got it. It's got staples all over it, taped together. I remember every ad in it.
Wow, that's cool. So who inspires you today to create?
Today, I don't know. I love Instagram, Pinterest, all that stuff, just checking out what everyone's doing. I'd say as far as creators go, there's people like Eric Larson who just have that workhorse kind of work ethic that they just don't stop, and it's people like that I really kind of jive with, and I like seeing them just keep on pushing. It can feel a bit like you're pushing the rock up a hill sometimes, but when you see people who are so far up that hill, it's pretty inspiring.
Cool. Good stuff. So we're here talking about your latest project, Death Row Sorcerer. So I wonder if you could tell me a bit what it's all about and maybe the origins of the project as well.
Yeah, so Death Row Sorcerer it's a 48-page kind of one and done, all self-contained story. It's kind of a zany horror comedy action, I guess. It's a lot of stuff thrown in there. If you're a fan of Evil Dead or Army of Darkness, it's probably right up your alley. It centers around this mafia kind of lackey. His name's Dresden Lang, and he's up to his neck in debt and a whole bunch of stuff. So it goes into the point where one mob boss gets him to do a B&E on another mob bosses for this kind of this idol. Stuff goes sideways, and he accidentally ends up causing the guy to have a heart attack. And because he killed someone in the commission of another crime, he gets the death penalty. So then it kind of goes into your standard kind of prison fare, dealing with other stuff, gangs and all that. But eventually he wears out his appeals, and he's still kind of condemned. And there's just been this reiteration that no matter how he kind of improves himself or what he does, he can never bring back the life. He can never bring back the guy that he kind of took away. So then he gets a bit of inspiration, and then does an interlibrary loan for the Necromonicon and a whole bunch of other books, and starts learning magic and looks for a different way out because the legal system kind of failed him.
Yeah, I was looking at the cover. It's kind of neat. It's got a Doctor Strange kind of vibe to it. Is that what you were going for?
Oh, hell yeah. I've got a whole bunch of pinups that I've done that are kind of different Doctor Strange homages and stuff. That's right in the vein where I wanted to kind of hit. But rather than wearing the robes, he's wearing a prison outfit. His cape's made out of his bed sheets. It's there's a lot of stuff thrown in there.
Cool. I was wondering who collaborated with you on this project, and how did you find them?
So originally the kind of the whole idea, there's tons of plot twists. There's tons of stuff like that. It all kind of came to me all at once. And then, so I started roughing it all out. And then I got my buddy Kurt Belcher, who's well known for a lot of different stuff. He's a great artist, great writer. So I got him to kind of help me synthesize it into something a bit better. So he helped me do dialogue and a couple other things, and it was a lot of help. And it wouldn't have been made without him. It would have just remained just this idea. But it was definitely my most ambitious thing. It's about the third project we've collaborated on, but definitely the longest. 48 pages is the longest issue I've ever done, so it's got to spread my wings a bit on it. It was a lot of fun.
So I presume that your previous work, you gelled, you worked well together, so you want to continue that.
Yeah, for sure. We did his book. We've done a couple things, but I got him to do a backup with me on one of my H.P. Lovecraft adaptations. I always like throwing in couple backup stories in there. So we did one together on there called Devil and Miss Clarence, which was a 4-page thing about this old woman going to the park and meeting the devil.
Wow. What is it with horror these days? Because I was talking to another gentleman the other day, another creator, and he was going on about horror being, his pastime, and he even mentioned Lovecraft. What is this fascination, you think, today with that?
It's a hard thing to really put your finger on. For me, I really appreciated like these kind of like just like staring into the void kind of thing that H.P. Lovecraft's got a lot going for it. But I also appreciate the idea that you can have these tones and you can have these themes that are very horror based, but you can also kind of lighten it up with humor or whatever, which is why I like would point to like Evil Dead and Army of Darkness and stuff, because there's a lot more room in horror to kind of play with some stuff.
Do you think maybe it might be an escape for some folks to avoid the harsh realities that we're going through right now?
I don't know. If your horror right now is too serious, then you've got like terror in one hand and terror in the other. So who knows?
Just an alternative, I guess, go through.
Yeah, for sure. It's at least you can control the pace on which you undergo your fiction, I guess.
Right. Now, I noticed with this project you chose Indiegogo. I know that others have chosen Kickstarter. So wondering, why did you choose Indiegogo?
Well, I did do a Kickstarter originally for this, and that was very successful. The thing is on Kickstarter, I've kind of got an audience where I can just announce a book with maybe a cover, and then I'll get the funding and then some, like quite a bit extra. So I've got an audience built up there. I found it hard to do Indiegogos prior. I tried one prior for Death Row Sorcerer, but I didn't have the book nearly as like it's complete now. So I've figured now that it's complete, now that they know it's good to go, now I'll try bringing it again and maybe have some more success because I haven't built up an audience there yet. So it's just kind of just finding a new market.
So you think that's the main difference, is having an audience? Is the mechanism exactly the same?
The mechanism's a bit different for Indiegogo. There's not as much internal promotion as Kickstarter, but at the same time, they also take less money. And there's degrees and standards that are a bit different. I found in Indiegogo, a lot of people expect, it's called Gemini mailers. And if you read anyone talking about Indiegogo, they're always going to talk about how like they want Gemini mailers. They want it protected. They really want something that's a bit more standard than just your standard mailer. They want the cardboard protection. They want it in mint when it comes, kind of thing.
Okay.
But other than that, I've found there's a larger art market on Kickstarter for sure.
What incentives do you have for backers for this particular project?
I do a old school kind of technique called lino block printing, where you kind of carve stuff and then you do different multiple ink passes to create an image. So I have lino block prints for this. I've got a lot. I've got T-shirts on the Indiegogo. They're exclusive to the Indiegogo. I've got posters. I've got bookmarks. I've got a whole bunch of stuff. I like that incentive too, like because it's fun. Just some people might put your comic away, but if they might want to put your poster up, they might want to have like a piece of original art. Like I've got that going there too. My H.P. Lovecraft stuff, I always have prayer candles, which are pretty fun and pretty popular.
Yeah, no, it's nice to have that little bit extra. I know that we're dealing with a digital age these days, and we're in sort of a transition. So it's nice to have that tangible, physical item that goes along with it.
And also, yeah, like, and if it's something that someone throws on their wall, they're not just going to forget about it because they'll be in their lives every day and they'll think about it, kind of thing. So that's why I like selling the art and stuff. Like, I have all the pages available for sale.
Great. So we've been talking about Death Row Sorcerer. I'm wondering what's next for you. What's your next big project?
Right now I'm working on the latest one I've kickstarted. It's another H.P. Lovecraft adaptation. It's The Music of Eric Zahn. And that's one of my favorite stories, so I've been kind of looking forward to doing this one. That thing's roughed out and good to go. I'm on page 9 right now, drawing it, of 28. And then after that, I'll be doing the kind of volume 2 of Death Row Sorcerer, in which we kind of move beyond where we're at, and it gets a lot more magical.
Sounds good. So where can people find you online, either social media or on the internet?
I am pretty much everywhere I can be. So I'm on Twitter. Most of my stuff you'll find me at ThatNickOG. So I'm on Etsy. I'm on Twitter at ThatNickOG. You can find me on PocketNet, which is a fun new app. You can find me, Facebook, ThatNickOG, everywhere.
Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Nick, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering if there's something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview.
No, that was pretty thorough. I really like that you do the first comic question. I have a kind of podcast that I do too, and that's always like, I just want to get into the minutia of what made a fan or a creator kind of thing. So stuff like that's always nice.
Well, let's talk about your podcast a bit. Let's give that a plug. What is your podcast all about?
Oh, okay. It's called Nico G Art and Comics, and it's I just interview creators and stuff. Actually, I've got if you want to listen to me interview Kurt Belcher, my co-writer, I have an episode of that. And what happens is it's on YouTube, and I just interview people, and it's usually the same standard of questions. We might have like kind of things that go off and tangents and stuff. But and then the interview overplays as I ink one of our pieces, kind of thing. So usually it's I do whoever I'm interviewing's character or something generally.
So do you get into the nitty gritty about the tools that you use and that sort of thing?
You'll certainly get to see it. I tend to talk to more writers than artists, so we don't really get into like the minutia of that much. But one of my favorite questions is always asking what's more important in comics, is writing or the art, because you'll always know if the person's a writer, they'll always say writing. If a person's an artist, they'll always say an artist. But if you talk to writer artists, they'll always say art, pretty much. Yeah. So that kind of, I always like that.
Well, that's a big debate for sure. I mean, it's sort of like chicken and egg. You can't have one without the other. However, there are some artists who could just draw, and that tells a story in itself. But I think you do need a script or an outline or something to make it work.
Yeah, I think the thing that the podcast so far has proven as maybe a rule is that the people who do both will say art. And that's really interesting to me. And writers do not like that.
Cool. Well, where can people find your podcast online?
On YouTube. It's Nico G Art and Comics.
Thanks to Nick for the chat. You can discover more about Nick on Twitter and Instagram at ThatNickOG. You can learn more about Death Row Sorcerer on Indiegogo. Nick's also on Patreon at patreon.com/ThatNickOG. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2021.